This Cambridge Marketing College webinar is called Mastering Social Media, and my name is Neil Wilkins. In this session, we are going to talk about how to get a grounded understanding of how platforms work, what content performs best, how to build, grow, and engage your audience in social media, and combine theory, current data, and recommended low-cost tools to bring this all together. Strong fundamentals, practical techniques, and the trends currently shaping social media are what you need to know, what you need to do, and how you need to literally optimize mastering social media. So why do the fundamentals of marketing and communication still matter when we think about social media? It is beyond just doing a quick TikTok post or just putting something onto your Instagram feed. Algorithms and formats change, but the consistency, the relevance, and the value of high quality content is the basic principle that still applies if you want success. Nearly 5 billion people use social media globally, according to Data Reportal. That was a report from January 2025. Nearly 5 billion people, pretty much everybody who you need to be targeting is going to be used some form of social media. That makes it both exciting and accessible, but also really challenging because, of course, as we know, everybody else is there trying to get that attention, trying to hook in that particular target audience as well. So effective strategies are always going to balance creativity with evidence-based fundamentals of good, strong communications in marketing. It isn't just about the best post. It isn't just about the funniest video. It's about actually blending business sense and sensibility with great content, making that content timely, relevant, educational, thoughtful, useful, and of the highest value to our target audience. So the role of social media in the marketing mix has been ever present since the dawn of social media. And for many of us, a lot of us don't actually remember a time before social media. So it really is integral to the customer journey or the sales funnel, sales and marketing funnel, whatever you want to call it. At the top of the funnel, social media can be used for creating awareness and gaining an engagement with that target audience. Around the middle of the funnel or the middle of the journey, it can be a more education process. It can be about building trust with that audience. And at the bottom of the funnel, maybe for, targeting not prospects, but people who have already converted, so are now actually customers. It can be great both for converting those people into customers, but also really importantly, retaining them. Particular social networks are especially powerful for building that engagement, that loyalty, and ultimately the advocacy from our trusted customers. Now, social media works best when it's integrated with everything else that you do, integrated with your CRM, your customer relationship management system, with your content marketing more generally. And of course, if you're doing any paid channel marketing, then it's integrating with that as well. In other words, everything that you're doing really digitally, your social media strategy must be integrated with it. I see so many examples of organizations in many, many different sectors who have social media over there, somebody working in isolation over there just doing socials, and the rest of the business is on the other side of the room. That is not how this works. To master social media properly, we need engagement and integration. Now, there are many theories around this and how, we can actually start to really build great social media strategy. One in particular is called network effects and social capital. These are two theories which are now blended together. They came from the mid-1980s. Network effects was all about value increases as more users engage. In other words, as people see more and more of a community in and around your social media, they start to engage more. And the value starts to go higher in terms of their perception of what you're offering. And social capital theory, working inside and aligned and alongside that, says that brands build equity by investing in community relationships. So this isn't just about user-generated content, just putting a hashtag in and letting everybody else go and play with it. It's about you being part of this. The clue, which is often mistaken and really kind of overlooked these days, is the word social. Social media channels now are very much seen as a promotional channel, but they're not. The most successful organizations and the biggest brands on the planet who are doing great stuff see that social strategies here focus on both the reach and the relationship quality. In other words, they are actually social. They're not just selling. And so if your brand or your products or your people are talking about too much of the kind of let's use social for selling, they're missing the trick. This is about community engagement, building interaction, and from that comes the perceived value in our target audiences. And we'll see this play out across all of the key platforms and the way that each of these platforms develops and uses these kinds of theories to optimize themselves for us as users, but also us as marketers. TikTok, for example, is all about entertainment and search with 1.7 billion monthly active users. Even in B2B sense, TikTok can play a part. Instagram, stories and reels do dominate. You'll know that. I know that. And the younger demographics are shifting now to messaging within Instagram. So there is again another trending kind of swathe of activity that's happening there, which again all marketers need to be aware of and using that to ride in on that wave of success within Instagram. LinkedIn, which many of us use professionally, can be used again in both a B2B but also a B2C focus. Over 1 billion members now. A strong B2B focus, of course, on thought leadership, but also be thinking creatively about how you can use that no matter what sector you're in. YouTube, still the number 2 search engine on the planet behind Google, and Shorts compete with TikTok. They do. Check your channel if you don't believe me, and it'll almost be certain to see that your Shorts will have higher viewers, higher subscription click-throughs, higher engagement probably than your long-form video. And so this will be a potential channel that could be of interest no matter what kind of brand you're promoting. X, formerly Twitter, now a news and niche communities platform. It has declining ad trust. You've only got to search out how many brands have pulled away and moved away from it, but it's still there if it's part of your brand strategy to be building a niche community. It can still be very, very powerful. You don't necessarily have to be following along in the mainstream on X. There may be, a great opportunity for you to be building a profile and a community within there. And Threads emerging as a brand safe text first alternative to both X and other channels that maybe you've been using before. So understanding each of these channels and where they are trending, where their priorities are, and also how the algorithms work, or how we can imagine the algorithms work, and what it is that your users and your target prospects and customers are getting in terms of value from these platforms is absolutely vital. We're seeing a number of different trends on some of these key platforms that marketers are really optimizing for right here, right now. The rise of AI-driven discovery feeds, for example, on TikTok, Meta, and YouTube. This is interesting. If you have conversational content, I've talked a lot over recent months about engaging content is conversational. Your customers are now searching using conversational search prompts within AI. And so these AI-driven discovery feeds within socials are now giving results. And as a marketer, you can be part of those results if you take those seriously. Private and closed groups are gaining importance. WhatsApp channels you may well have come across. And of course, many of us have either used or been part of Discord for gaining really, really, really strong traction in, again, niche targeted segmented audiences. But these are important. This is the community part of social media. Remember that word social? That's what we're trying to break into here. Search behavior is shifting to social first amongst Gen Z. We've seen this over the sort of predominantly over the last few years, but Google and TechCrunch have done a number of reports and big research programs, and it is true. This is what is happening. So if you're thinking search engine optimization is just Google, well, it's AI, but it's also search within social. So making sure that if Gen Z and all of the other demographics, to be fair, as they evolve too, are searching in social, then you need to have a strategy for that too. And short form video remains the most effective content format if you need some quick wins within social media. Really important to remember that. Often we are targeted with, let's get some results this month, not wait long term for the brand to evolve and develop. Well, short form video, the way that you can creatively put that out is going to match the current trend within social. And that will certainly help you to understand how to get the success within the channels that you choose. And of course, it is about understanding the algorithms, how platforms rank the content that you put in there. And we know that watch time and completion rate for videos is really important. So not only making them very hooky and sticky at the start, but even on a short form video, making sure as many people as possible watch all the way through to the end. That is a ranking signal to the algorithms that your content's good. Engagement signals like very, very in the moment, i.e., almost real time, likes, comments, saves, and shares is vital. So be there when your content goes out, even if you've scheduled it to go out, be there to be responding to comments, be there to be thanking people for liking and saving and sharing. You can't just rely on automation. You've got to be there doing this too. It's social media. And paid signals increasingly are integrated with organic reach. So again, talking about integrating both paid and organic search, not search, on organic social activities that you do. And of course, the underlying theme of all of this, and the platforms are still going to be doing this, whether you're doing optimizing your content for video, for text, or for imagery, is it's about recency, relevance, and personalization. Those three things should be your filter. How recent did people interact with your content? How relevant was your content to that audience? And how personalized did you make it when you were targeting? Because if you just publish once and hope and just move away and carry on with your day, that is not social networking. Social networking is constantly paying attention, being thirsty and hungry to see what happens in real time. So recency, relevance, and personalization, that should be your mantra every time a post is going out from one of your channels. And so by thinking about the three pillars of social content aligned with that recency and personalization and relevance, we can start to really understand the how we can actually engage with the search and with the socials and with the people that we're trying to attract and hook in. And so these three things are really, really key. These three pillars will enable you to think about content from inspiring advocacy, inspiring engagement, inspiring shares, because ultimately that is what we are being tasked to do by the platforms and their algorithms. So one is that you can be educational. One pillar of your social content can be solving customer problems. Think about that one. What problems would you like to solve? Maybe you go to your website and you see what people have searched on, and or you see which are the most popular FAQs that you're seeing, frequently asked questions on your website. You could also go entertaining route, humor, storytelling, relatability. Even if you could blend maybe educational and entertainment, so you solve a problem, but you do it in a humorous way. You storytell, but actually at the same time, you're providing value to the customer. What an interesting balance. And the third of the pillars, of the three pillars of social content, is empowering, empowerment. So inspiring or community building content that maybe is also storytelling, relatable, humorous, and maybe actually then also adds value and solves problems. Do you see what's happening here? There's a blend, there's an integration here of some really fundamental principles. Educate, entertain, and empower. Do that in a way that's personalized, relevant, and timely. These are the things that people are searching for now when they want to find reliable brands to form relationships with. And of course, when you do that, the format matters. So what's going to perform best, really? Well, in video, it's short form, as we've said a number of times already. This is the highest growth category. So if you could use the pillars in line with creating short form video, could be interesting. But maybe you don't want to do video. Maybe you want to do imagery. So carousel posts get strong engagement on both LinkedIn and Instagram. So imagine your pillars, your three pillars, providing incredible value. You create some imagery. You do then the carousel approach in LinkedIn and Instagram, watch the results. User-generated content, many of you will be using this, UGC, gets a significantly higher trust score than just standard branded content. So maybe you start to use the community that you're engaging with here. Remember, it's social. And you then start to co-create content. A brand that's always done this so well is the North Face. You often see a lot of their co-created, their co-branded content will be pushed out through these kinds of channels with using those three pillars. But it's actually not just them. They're using some of their sponsored athletes or they're using some of their customers to also share. So UGC can be really interesting there. And of course, interactive content as well will increase engagement and interaction. And it can also stimulate the next piece of content because when you get the answer to your poll or your Q&A or your quiz, that stimulates the next piece of content. So the format really does matter. But as we're seeing here, one piece leads to the next piece. And so it's about continuous improvement through all of these things that you're doing. It gets really interesting when you stop and think that being on socials is not just about your next post. It's about properly reflecting on why am I posting this? What am I actually trying to achieve? Am I using the three pillars? Am I actually going to be there when I've posted this to see what happens and interact with those who do engage with it? If you're not being social. That's the key. So the do's here in our do's and don'ts of social media marketing, the do's are be consistent with your voice and posting. Brand values, of course. Brand guidelines, yes, always. Optimize for accessibility. Yeah, captions, alt text, all those good digital marketing best practices, they still are there. And do engage in two-way dialogue. Be there, be available. Remember, it's social networking. I keep saying it, don't I? But you would be amazed how many people say, yes, Neil, and then don't do it. They just do another post. And don't over automate your responses. One of three things that are the golden rules of things not to do. Over automating responses can be the surefire way to not build trust. Nobody really wants to talk to a machine if they could talk to you. Okay, we can say, well, if AI is coming in and doing the search on behalf of a human, they won't mind, but actually they do. They're trained to see that there's a human interacting with them. So therefore, if a large language model comes in and actually finds that there's an automated response coming out, it will make a judgment from that. Don't also post without a clear objective. If you're just putting content out because you haven't done a post already this week, that is not a good enough reason. And I'm sure you're feeling that now from all the things that I've said. Remember, ultimately, we're trying to post to get a social response back. There is no point in posting to thin air. There's no point in posting and then the tumbleweed rolls by in this ghost town of no non-response. Pointless, absolutely pointless to your digital strategy. So be doing something for a reason, wait for that reason to produce a result, and then respond. And the final third of the don'ts is don't ignore negative feedback. There is no negative feedback. There we go. I've been contentious. There is no negative feedback. There's just feedback. If somebody is not happy, there's a reason they're not happy. If somebody's trying to bait you and stimulate you to get into an argument, there's a reason they're doing that. Embrace the opportunity to have a conversation. I've seen so many times with so many brands over so many years, organizations who actually welcome negative feedback because it allows them to get into a much more impassioned conversation rather than with somebody who doesn't really care, somebody just click like. With somebody who actually cares, somebody who actually wants to get into this, somebody who wants to get a result and a response from you. That's a far better relationship opportunity than somebody who's meh with you with the content that you've provided. So don't ignore negative feedback. It is an opportunity to go deeper into that relationship with them, turn things around. And you'll often find, and I've seen so much evidence of this over the years, and it's a bumpy ride, but you'll often find they can become the biggest advocates you will ever get. Because people who don't really care are neutral. They're almost the invisible party actually in your database. Whereas those who care positively or negatively, those are going to be your potential advocates. And it's because they care, because they're being social. So one of the ways that we can kind of leverage all of that is to be leveraging platform native features. So the things that actually happen within each of the platforms, whichever ones that you choose, and this will enable you to grow your audience. So if you see that the platform native features like Reels or Shorts or LinkedIn newsletters, for example, are being promoted by the platforms, start to use them. They're being used by the platforms because those platforms are pushing those as tools and channels to get to your audience. So you don't want to be fighting against the tide here. If they're doing the promotion for you and they're encouraging people to look at the newsletters, watch the shorts, enjoy the reels, then get on board with that. They're doing the hard yards for you in the channel development. And of course, if you're finding that you're coming at this from maybe a starting block, so you've maybe never done shorts before, or maybe you haven't actually published a reel professionally, you've done it personally, but maybe you haven't done it professionally, then collaborating with micro influencers is the best way to drive engagement in the short term. So by micro influencer, anybody under 50K followers is kind of what we're talking about. And they will have a niche following, and that's a good thing because one, they're a little bit more hungry, possibly, than the bigger influencers, the macro ones with a much bigger following, but also they're focused in on what you're focused in on. Remember, the clue is the word social. They will want to support you as much as you need them. And you can, of course, as you're building, both leveraging the platform native features along with some micro influencers who are active in those particular channels, you can then start to use cross-channel promotion between platforms and maybe some of your own platforms. So not just the social platforms, but your website, your email newsletter, your customer database, for example. Again, surefire ways of starting to build that incremental audience growth, to build the community, to build the engagement, to build then the results for your business. And so when we talk about results for your business, we do want to move beyond vanity metrics. Please, 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 as you're starting to master social media, is come away from the obvious things that really are not helping you at all. Likes. How many times do we chase likes? And yes, I'll put my hands up. I've done it too. And I still sometimes actually do look at likes. How did that post do? Oh dear, only 3 likes. Oh dear, nobody likes it. Doesn't mean that nobody likes it, just means nobody has clicked the like button. So qualitative engagement matters more than likes. The quality, those 2 or 3 likes could result in actual business. I'd far better get that than 3,000 likes that didn't result in actually anything. So the metrics to track are saves, shares, dwell times, and sentiment analysis. How did somebody feel as a result of that post or engaging with you after reading that post? These are the things that matter. These are the outcomes, not the outputs. That's key. And you can use community management tools like Sprout Social and others to kind of gauge how you're doing with these things. But please move beyond the vanity metrics of how many followers have you got, how many views of that video. Those kinds of things are really not helpful. Yes, you need to have more than none, because if you have none, then clearly nobody's listening or watching, but you don't need to be chasing those vanity metrics. They are just the short-term feel good, but they don't mean anything to the business. It's the follow through that means everything. And so by follow through, what I mean is we need to turn that into actual inquiries, into lead generation, into the advocacy and loyalty. So if we use something like, say, the RACE framework, so you can then be looking at reach, the R in RACE, to grow followers and impressions. Okay, we do need to get a bandwidth here. We do need to get some kind of coverage and awareness. But then we need to move to ACT to drive engagement and clicks, because if we don't do that, well, that was just noise. The noise didn't come to anything. But if we can get that noise to click through to somewhere else, then we can move to the C in RACE, convert. We can generate some leads and stimulate some sales. Great, now we've got some customers as a result of our social media activity. Or we've got some people signing up to the event, or we've got some people making an inquiry so we can get a sales visit. Those kinds of things are what we need to be doing, not just publishing content. There's enough noise out there already. You know it, I know it. So let's focus on applying these things to get some results. And the E in RACE framework is engage. The advocacy and loyalty comes from the follow-up. So having got the person that far is what are you going to do next? And by assigning key performance indicators for each stage of your follow through, You can then align your content accordingly. You can balance it using the pillars or maybe the rule of thirds to get the value coming through loud and clear at every stage so that it's meaningful. So, not just that one person comes through this framework, but many people come through this framework. Let's open those floodgates and actually start to use it to generate some business. And if you're thinking about actually doing or you're already doing stuff like paid media, then you can add your paid ads in here and your boosted content. You can actually be doing influencer collaborations and PR. You can do some sharing, community and UGC, as we've talked about there. You've obviously got your own, you've got your brand channels and your assets already on your website, for example. And if you can balance all of these things, if you can start to think about how is that ad going to drive into that funnel at the same time as the organic content is going to provide support and a deeper dive into what we're talking about. And how can then I engage with my salesperson to go and do the follow-up as a result of that inquiry that led from that click? If you can start to properly think this stuff through as a process, then you have a huge opportunity to properly integrate social into the business. That is so, so important. And it is more than just creation. Yes, we do want to be editing our videos. CapCut, great one to try there. Yes, we do want some strong graphics and templates. Canva Pro, if you haven't got it, try that one. It's amazing. Descript for your video, audio editing, and it'll give you the transcripts, which are great again for SEO on your website and in your socials. And Photo Room, if you want product images for social commerce, if you're actually trying to do some social selling through I don't know, Marketplace or TikTok Live or whatever, then you have an opportunity there to create whatever it is that you need. And those are before I'd recommend you have a little play with here. And if you want to do the scheduling and management, I kind of drew back a little bit and said, be careful. But if you're doing stuff at scale, you will want to be using things like Buffer and Metrical to do your scheduling and to managing multi-channel, multi-platform content creation and publishing through your socials. But be there, be in the moment, be watching and be kind of almost the conductor of the orchestra. That's absolutely key. Don't just let it get on with it itself. Find some tools that are going to enable this strategy to actually take place. And you can get a bit of help with that listening and with those analytics. There are many tools available, obviously, to do social media analytics. Brand24 is a really good one for real-time monitoring of mentions, for example. And do a search. Do a search on precisely what it is that you want to be solving or finding out as you start to listen to your social channels. And there'll be something, maybe 2 or 3 channels, platforms available for you to do and use to help you along the way, because it can't necessarily always be a manual exercise. And who've been doing this? You know, it's all very well me saying you need to do this, you need to do that, stop doing this, do more of that. But there are some really good case studies, and you can go and do a little bit of a deeper search if these are of interest to you. Look up Duolingo on TikTok. This was a really, really good one as a lesson in authenticity and showed that really entertainment can drive exponential growth. Some people say, oh, you've got to go viral on social. Well, viral is an outcome, it's not a thing you do. If you do stuff well, it might go viral, but you've got to do the good stuff first, and then the viral is the outcome. So look up Duolingo on TikTok. If you want to find out some good best practice on LinkedIn, LinkedIn Thought Leadership through Microsoft was really, really good and really was a credibility and consistency lesson and showed that that actually drives more quality rather than quantity. So it is more important to get these deeper relationships building, because those advocates, those people you have those deep relationships with, those are the ones who are actually going to be pushing the messages out beyond just that one-to-one relationship you've built. So if you want to build thought leadership, think quality, not quantity. Another one that's also quite an interesting one to work with, if I can move the slide on there, is thinking about small business, big impact. This is a really interesting one. Local coffee brand who would use, say, Instagram stories for customer polls and product testing. So actually punching above their weight, basically. And that potentially, if you're getting into these kind of conversational approaches within socials, you can then see high loyalty and product uptake with zero ad spend, because engagement-led growth is possible on a low budget. Social media, now I'm going to be controversial here. Social media should be free. It really should, because, okay, some of the bigger brands might want to be spending, on big ad budgets, but for most of us who don't have big budgets, organic engagement is really the winner, in my view, because it is possible on a zero or very low budget, but it does require your time and attention. But that again comes full circle back to the overall strategy. And as you're measuring these things, then think about the key kind of metrics that are going to be important as you start to both explore those case studies in more detail, but also think about kind of what's in it for me? What actually do I want to be achieving? Awareness, remember, impressions, reach, follower growth, engagement level, saves, shares, comments, and watch time. Conversion level, the leads, the sign-ups, the attributable sales from your social activities, and the retention stage of your customer journey, repeat engagement, community growth, and sentiment. How are your customers now feeling through their social interactions with you? Does this actually for you maybe go broader and higher and deeper than just social media platforms? I think it probably does. Social media is a tool. Social media is a channel or a series of platforms through which you can send your messages. But this is deeper, more fundamental to how you communicate. And a multi-touch model helps you to identify the social role in the conversion stage of your journey. It helps you to identify the fact that we need to get people to buy into us. Clicks and leads is one thing, and that's great, but actually getting somebody to commit behaviorally is probably our biggest return on investment. Because if they will engage with us, if they will actually commit to us, our job then is partially done, because now they've committed, we are actually in a relationship with them. Social media is often seen as the front of the funnel, the front end, building awareness, go out and get a load of followers and our job will be done. It's not. That is not what this is about. This is about stimulating behavioral change. And with that mindset, you can begin to really master social media activity. And you'll also avoid the pitfalls, avoiding really focusing on misleading metrics or these inflated vanity metric numbers. Really falling sort of foul of some of the compliance as well, because there are advertising standards. As you're building these communities, you need to be doing it in a really authentic and honest way. That really is a mantra that plays out in social media. People will smell a rat if you start to try and do things that you can't provide evidence you can support or that you can deliver. So again, addressing inclusivity and accessibility across all of your content and being really transparent is absolutely key here. This is the way to really master social media, integrating it in with what you do. And a 90-day plan, if you wanted to really take this forward in a serious way, not just do socials because we do socials, but actually do it as a joined up, integrated strategy, then I'd say over the next 90 days, build a 90-day social plan. Audit your existing presence and be honest and true. Be really true with what you see. Own up to where you see there's gaps. Know where you're not doing something. Say where your content actually doesn't really deliver the value. Know where the content absolutely flies and works. Know where the engagement truly happens. And define 3 to 5 smart objectives. Remember, all the time we're looking at smart objectives. That's key. And mapping your content pillars that we talked about, selecting the right tools and workflows, and creating a metrics dashboard that we were talking about. In that 90-day social plan, I think then you will be very much positioning yourself for social media success in 2025, because it does depend here in 2025 and in 2026 and beyond on solid fundamentals, plus the responsible adoption of new trends as they come. So combine your creativity, the data, the ethics, the growth of communities, and ensure that you're inspiring trust and advocacy for your brand. And that is how you master social media here and now.